Thank you very much. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. I hope you can hear me well.
Exactly, you're clear.
Good afternoon, distinguished speakers and participants. You can call me Abdullahi Kone or Abdullahi, it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll try to share the slide. Okay, I think there's an action to be taken by somebody for me to be able to share this slide.
Participants.
You are muted, Rashid.
You are the host now, so you should be able to share this time.
All right, let me try again.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Yes. Yeah. Can you see?
Yes. We can see your presentation now.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, it's clear.
Yes.
We can see it here.
Great. Okay, before I start talking about Afreximbank digital vision, which is transforming intra-African trade through innovation, I would like to give you a bit of background and presentation of Afreximbank so that you see the relevance of the digital vision of Afreximbank. First of all, who are we? Afreximbank, the African Export-Import Bank, is a multilateral international financial institution which is headquartered in Cairo, in the Arab Republic of Egypt, with the mission to stimulate a consistent expansion and diversification of African trade so as to rapidly increase Africa's share of global trade. And in doing so, to operate as a first-class, profit-oriented, and socially responsible financial institution and center of excellence in African trade matters. Afreximbank vision is to be the trade finance bank for Africa. We are having branches in Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire, in Abuja, in Nigeria, Harare in Zimbabwe, Kampala in Uganda, and we are working to set up a branch in Yaoundé in Cameroon for Francophone Central Africa. Afreximbank has 51 member countries in Africa out of the 54. Only Algeria, Somalia, and Libya are yet to join, and they will hopefully join soon. That being said, it is also important to know the context to Afreximbank establishment. Afreximbank was established in response to the global debt crisis in the 90s, and the crisis resulted in a drastic reduction in the availability of trade financing in Africa. And the establishment agreement of Afreximbank was signed in 1993 in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, providing the bank with the supranational creditor and tax status that the bank requires to be able to perform its mission. And the bank charter was signed by all shareholders that regulates the governance of the bank. And the bank has now emerged as a cornerstone of promoting intra-African trade and value-added exports. The bank has the advantage of a development bank with a commercial approach to operations. We have 4 classes of shareholders to talk about the shareholding structure. We have Class A shareholders, including the African government, the African central banks, the African sub-regional, regional financial institutions. We have a Class B shareholders comprising of African national financial institutions across the continent and African private sectors. Class C shareholders of Afreximbank include international financial institutions, export credit agencies, and non-African private funds. Recently, we created a Class D, which is peculiar to Afreximbank when you look at the world of international financial institution, which is open to subscription by any investors. That being said, it is also good to share the rating of Afreximbank by GCR, which is BB plus stable. Moody's is rating Afreximbank as Baa1, and Fitch is rating Afreximbank by BB stable. That being said, it is also important to mention some of our key achievements in 2019. We were able to increase the share of the bank's loan portfolio relating to intra-African trade to 25% against a target of 13%. And we successfully facilitated the inaugural intra-African trade fair in Egypt in 2018, and we are planning the next one in Rwanda this year. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has not made it possible, but we are working to do a virtual intra-African trade, a virtual trade fair, and then plan for the trade fair in 2021. Under industrialization, we provided over 1.1 billion in financing to support 7 manufacturing projects. We disbursed 742 million to projects related to trade enabling infrastructure. Under trade finance, we disbursed $6 billion US dollar trade financing support against a target of 3.5 billion. And we established 120 new correspondent banking and trade services relationship across the continent. Under our financial soundness and performance, we increased shareholder fund by 200 million US dollar and achieve a capital adequacy ratio of 24% and achieve a return on equity of 11.65%. That being said, we operate currently under our 5th strategy, which was set up in December 2016, Impact 2021 Africa Transform. That 5th strategy is based on 4 pillars. I mentioned some of them. Intra-African trade is the arrowhead of our 5th strategy. We have industrialization and export development, trade finance leadership, and then financial soundness and performance. That being said, I will now move on to this subject of today. I don't know whether I'm not able to move my slide. But let me take you through it anyways. I'm not able to move my presentation, but it is quite.
I think you should enter a presentation mode.
Presentation.
This is the play icon at the top left of your screen, Or maybe you can just go through the slide.
Presentation mode. Well.
Yeah, this one.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, with the one with the play icon. Yes, this one. Great.
But okay. Okay. So it is in line. Can you see it now?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Thank you very much, Rashid. So it is in line with the strategy I just presented to you that Afreximbank created a digital ecosystem that will accelerate intra-African trade through the elimination of major bottlenecks and trade and financial flows within the continent. Let me present you this. So sorry, technical problem again. I don't know whether you can see the presentation. I hope I'll be able to move. So I was explaining that we estimated that when completed, our digital platform could triple the share of intra-African trade, share of the Africa total trade in line with the AU target under Agenda 2016. And in more specific terms, Afreximbank integrated digital solution would eliminate the foreign currency cost of conducting intra-African trade by facilitating the payment, clearing, settlement of goods and services in national currencies. It will also eliminate the high costs associated with KYC and customer due diligence checks by restoring trade and project finance flows into productive sectors across the continent. It will facilitate improved access to trade information and deepen knowledge of African and non-African corporates about the trade and investment potential as well as networking opportunities in Africa. It will also improve the cost competitiveness of Africa's export by creating a system that harmonizes trade regulatory regimes in the continent that is highly currently fragmented. So moving on to that digital platform, as you can see, we have the customer online application where our customers will be able to apply for any solution or product and services offered by Afreximbank online. You have the MANSA, the Africa Customer Due Diligence Repository Platform. You have the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. You have the Trade Information Portal and the Trade Regulatory Information Portal. I'll now move on to MANSA. What is MANSA? MANSA is Africa Customer Due Diligence Repository Platform. MANSA is a stringent financial regulatory, in these stringent financial regulatory regimes have raised compliance costs and consistently exit international bank from African trade finance space. And that is why Afreximbank has completed the implementation of this Africa Customer Due Diligence Repository Platform that we call MANSA Repository Platform, that will serve as a single source of centralized data for conducting customer due diligence checks on counterparties in Africa, financial institutions, corporate, and SMEs. And it was named after one of our famous late emperors, Mansa Musa, in the Mali Empire, who did a very remarkable trip from Mali all the way to Mecca and shared gifts as gold to many leaders on his way to that famous trip that you all remember. And because we believe that today information is gold, that's why one of the reasons why we have gone to name this platform Mansa, after Mansa Musa. That being said, you can see the purpose of Mansa is to provide a single source of primary data in conducting customer due diligence checks on counterparties in Africa. I mentioned that this will reduce current inefficiencies with different institutions collecting KYC information and documentation from the same customers multiple times. It will address de-risking and withdrawal of corresponding banking relation whenever there's a crisis in Africa. You see that those partners will run away. But business and life has to go on, to continue. How do we do that? We need to come as the Trade Finance Bank for Africa, come with a solution that will address this issue. Mansa will also promote international trade with Africa to lower risk and cost of compliance for global banks and trading entities in maintaining the relationship with their African counterparts. It will promote good governance, provide visibility and insight to Africa, and it will also be a tool that can help in the risk management. The objectives of Mansa is to ensure availability of due diligence information and information that will eliminate subjective evaluation of customers and against perceived risk of trading with African corporate financial institutions and so on and so forth. To enable African financial institutions and corporate entities to meet trading and business partners' expectations while ensuring a regulatory compliance. It will, of course, reduce high cost of trade finance, project finance, and export finance, and fight money laundering and counter financing terrorism. Today, Mansa is live and operating at www.mansaafrica.com. The second platform that we are working to set up is PAPS, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. It is a major challenge today to cross-border trade in Africa, which has limited access to hard currency and also experience the lack of convertibility of most currencies in the continent. I'm sure most of you have experienced situations where when you travel to an African country and you are left with change, you have probably two options. Either you keep it, you can't use it, or you give it to somebody. Or you keep it until such time that you come back to that country to be able to spend, which is a limitation to trade, intra-African trade among African countries. That is the convertibility of it. And Afreximbank's technology platform seeks to mitigate this challenge by facilitating trade payment and settlement in national currencies. So briefly, Afreximbank is implementing this central financial infrastructure for the economic and financial integration of Africa. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, is a centralized payment system for intra-African trade and commerce payment only. Intra-African trade and commerce only. PAPS will operate independently of domestic payment systems. Now, if you want to buy from another African country, then PAPS becomes your solution. If you want to trade in your country, then you can use your domestic payment system. PAPS payment will be instant and in local currencies. I will give an illustration at the end of this presentation. PAPS defines a common framework for transacting, clearing, and settling cross-border transactions, including operating rules, business practices, standard participation requirements, and funding schemes, among other solutions. The key objectives are here: increase intra-African trade, facilitate economic and regional integration, reduce cost of cross-border payment across Africa. And there you see in our countries, in Africa, informal trade represents a significant portion of intra-African trade. And that informal trade, those informal traders will carry currencies with high risk, security high risk, to cross the border and go and trade, go and pay. And those are the issues, the challenges that PACS will resolve. And PACS will reduce the duration and time variability of cross-border payment. You see that today, if you want to make a payment, for instance, between Ghana and Nigeria, where I am, you would go to a local bank in Ghana. That you give your instruction there, that local bank will now instruct their correspondent banking, whether in London or in US. That correspondent bank will now go to contact their correspondent bank in Ghana. If that correspondent bank is not your bank, that correspondent bank will now contact your local banking bank. You see the time lost to trade between Nigeria and Ghana, two countries that are in West Africa, in the ECOWAS zone. That is what PACS is going to address. Transactions are going to be instant. It will also decrease the liquidity requirement of commercial banks for cross-border payment. In the illustration, we will explain that. Decrease the liquidity requirement of central bank for settlement as well as its own payment. Let me give you an example. What PACS will do is, you are in Nigeria, you want to import from Ghana. You pay in Nigerian Naira, and the Ghanaian exporter will receive the payment in Ghana cedi. And if you only consider a system with these two countries, you see that the Ghana importer will also pay in Ghana cedi, and the Nigerian exporter will receive it. So those are the two currencies that will be used to trade. At the end of the day, assume that Nigeria will export more to Ghana. You see, it is only that balance, that deficit, that balance that the central banks will use to settle each other in US dollar. You can see that about 80 to 90% of the settlement will be done in local currency, therefore reducing the need to have US dollar or source US dollar to trade between two African countries. PACS will also disintermediate correspondent banking relationship for intra-African trade payment flows. Then let me move on to the Afreximbank Trade Information Portal. You know that the lack of information and knowledge about trade opportunities in Africa is a major obstacle to African trade. And the Trade Information Portal is a multi-sided digital platform that will provide information of rich, up-to-date repository of data, tools, and information product tailored for importers, exporters, SMEs, investors, policymakers, financial institutions, corporate, and trade supporting institutions who are looking to access African market or to expand existing operations across the continent. You also have the trade regulatory platform. In Africa, we said it, trade regulations are fragmented. You see different regulations. How do you trade among yourself with this system? So this platform will now try to bring all those regulations together, facilitate access, and aim to actually centralize, to get to a single source of regulations and legislative requirement for product and services, export and import across the continent. And this is the illustration, how it will work. To illustrate, consider a customer engaged in intra-African trade. He must start by visiting the trade information portal to identify market potential buyers of his or her goods and services. Identifying the buyers throws up the need for that potential exporter to conduct customer due diligence and services available under MASA.
Mr. Akon, please, I will ask you to conclude because we are really taken by the schedule.
Well, you can see that there's a sort of integration in those systems. When you identify, you get the correct information about your counterpart, you now trade, you pay through PAPS, and you have access to the regulatory regimes to know what you must comply with to be able to trade. I will conclude on that note, and thank you very much. We could talk more about that. And this is what Afreximbank is setting up to promote intra-African trade and to grow the percentage of intra-African trade. When you look at other regions, they have 65%, 35% in Asia, 65% in Europe of trade in their own continent. We are around 16% today. We want to grow that exponentially so that Africa development can be sustained and can be protected and sustained whenever there's crisis, be it oil crisis, commodity crisis, it will not affect our development. That is the aim of Afreximbank. Thank you for listening. There are a few questions. I'm available to take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Akon, for this really exciting presentation. I would like to emphasize the fact that MANSA, the customer due diligence platform, and PAPS, the settlement and payment settlement platforms, they really address two of the most important roadblocks in terms of development in Africa today. Africa is the region in the world that has the lowest economic integration, and that takes a huge toll on development. So I would like to thank Afreximbank for what they are doing on customer due diligence and platform. That is such an important thing that I will certainly ask you to come back at ADL-INNET to presentation dedicated to MANSA and another one dedicated to PAPS. This is really important for Africa. Thank you, Mr. Kahn.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
May I take my comment? The Eximbank strategy and the Eximbank structure is well known in Europe as well, and also in the Eastern Europe side, Western Balkan, and also in Southeast Europe. And I think, Rashid, that this kind of the trade, cross-border trade and investment opportunity can be very well connected to the digital identity management.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Of course. Yes, exactly, Mr. Kahn. That's why I would like to ask you to come back, because I have so much questions about MANSA, for instance, because if you try to work with all the banks that are working in Africa continent today about their customer due diligence data, obviously they don't want to share that data, because when a bank does customer due diligence, this data becomes part of our market of business knowledge that they don't want to share. So if we want such a system to work, that data should belong to the customer. So if I am an organization, a business organization working in Africa, customer due diligence about my company, I should own that data, okay? And if I own it, then I don't have to ask banks to share the data. I own it, I control it. And these kind of things can be done with the self-sovereign identity platform, where data is controlled by the owner of the subject of the data. So data about me, Rashid Bishiwa, I own that data, and I can share it with whoever I want. So if we had this system, a business in Nigeria would own all data that gives financial credibility to his organization. And if he wants, let's say, a loan in Algeria, he can share that financial data with the bank in Algeria. So in my sense, the only way to address that problem is by giving back control of the data to the organizations, to the individuals.
If I may quickly, very briefly, say something about that. In fact, you have said exactly what MANSA is. That is what MANSA is.
Great.
In the interest of time, I could not go into too many details. But MANSA is owned by the organizations, corporate banks. Each organization will have an administrator appointed. They will update MANSA platform regularly. We have a legal documentation for all of that. Actually, we have people are on board. MANSA is already live. MANSA is also a tool where people can chat, investors and clients can chat online. I go to MANSA, I see Rashid, I don't know whether it looks like you are in Algeria, right?
Tunisia.
Tunisia, okay, yeah. Sorry about that. Tunisia is a beautiful country. Okay, I see Rashid and I see what Rashid is doing. I contact Rashid through the MANSA platform online. Rashid, can you share additional information with me on your company, on your partners, your project, your KYC information? We start chatting and then we deal, we trade. So you've described exactly what MANSA is doing. We'll be glad to come back to you whenever we have the opportunity. We have specialists for MANSA. We have a dedicated department handling MANSA. We have a team, and we are growing that team to be able to meet the expectation of all stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So we give now the floor to Mr. Sant Mba, and he will give us a presentation on the impact of digital transformation on trade policies and the after operations. Mr. Sant Mba, please.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just once, please.
Today has been a lot of information. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, just one second, please. Mr. Icon, could you please, you are the host of the presentation now. So could you on Zoom, click on the participants button and then, yeah, select me, I'm Rashid Bouchiwa. And when you select me, you'll see a blue button with written more on it. And if you click on it, you'll see something like make host. And I will ask you to make me host.
Sorry, do you want
I have done that.
Yeah,
already.
Thank you a lot. So now I will give you send. I think now you should be able to